Imagine a Sunday morning. You are a young child. Your father puts on the standard dark blue uniform. He grabs your hand. He's not taking you to the park to play. He's not taking you to buy ice cream. Instead, he drags you through the streets of Tokyo to knock on the doors of complete strangers. Your father's job is to collect subscription fees for NHK, the National Public Television Network. He stands at the door and knocks. Loud, heavy, mechanical knocks. People inside pretend they're not home. Or they open the door and yell at him. They insult him. They looked at him with pure disgust. And you, the child, have to stand there and watch. You have to share in the shame. You become part of the hatred. This is the child of the Tengo, the main character in Haruki Murakami's massive novel 1Q84. It is required everyday kind of violence. There is no blood, no dramatic beatings, just a slow, steady destruction of a child's soul. Today, we are going to look closely at Tengo and his father. We are going to look at what happens when a father and son hate each other, and what happens when that father finally falls into a deep, silent coma. This is not just a story about a book. This is a story about the ghosts we carry, the parents we try to escape, and the painful, quiet process of rewriting our own lives. To understand Tengo, you have to understand the Japan of his childhood. In the late 20th century, the NHK fee collector was a unique figure in Japanese society. By law, everyone with TV had to pay the fee, but many people refused. So, an army of collectors was sent out to knock on doors. It was a thankless, miserable job. It required a person to be completely empty. You have no pride, no feelings, just a blind obedience to the rules. Tengo's father was the perfect man for the job. He was rigid. He had no imagination. He lived by the manual. And he dragged Tengo along because people were less likely to yell at a man holding a little boy's hand. He used his son as a human shield. But there's a darker shadow in this family, a memory that Tengo cannot escape. When he was a baby, he remembers waking up in his crib and seeing his mother with another man, an older man in a suit sucking on her breast. Not long after, his mother disappeared. She died, but the details were always kept a secret. The father never spoke of her. He just kept wearing his uniform, holding Tengo's hand and knocking on doors. So think about what this does to a person. Tengo grows up to be a big, strong man. He becomes a math teacher and a talented writer. From the outside, he looks solid, but inside, he's frozen. He has carefully built his adult life so that no one can get too close. He has safe, quiet relationships with older married women. He teaches math because numbers make sense. Numbers do not lie, numbers do not betray you. Tengo has spent his whole life running away from his father. He moved away. He stopped talking to him. He cut the old man out of his life completely. He thought that by putting physical distance between them, he was free. But here is the thing about trauma. Running away is not the same as healing. If you just lock the monster in the basement, you still have to live in the house above it. You are still shaped by the fear of it breaking out. The story shifts when Tengo gets a message. His father is in the seaside sanatorium in a town called Chikura. He has dementia, and soon after, he falls into a deep, heavy coma. Tengo takes a train to the coast. When he walks into the hospital room, he does not find the terrifying, rigid fee collector of his childhood. He finds an empty shell. A tiny, thin old man breathing through a tube. The father has lost his memory, his voice and his conscious mind. He's just a body on the bed. This is the turning point in Tengo's life. When your enemy loses their power, what do you do with your anger? For years, Tengo's entire identity was built on not being his father. His hatred gave him shape. But looking at this hollowed-out man, the hatred suddenly has nowhere to go. You cannot fight the ghost. You cannot argue with a body in a coma. Murakami uses the coma in a brilliant way. The father in the bird becomes a blank screen. Because the old man cannot speak, Tengo is finally forced to listen to himself. Tengo starts doing something beautiful and strange. He sits by the bird and he reads a book out loud to his sleeping father. He reads Shakespeare's Macbeth. He reads history. He reads stories. Why would you read complex literature to a man who is essentially brain dead? A man who never cared about books in the first place? Because Tengo is not really reading for his father. He's reading for himself. He's bringing his own world, the world of words and imagination, into the dark, rigid world of his father. This is the beginning of his self-reconstruction. While the physical father is sleeping quietly in the sanatorium, something terrifying happens back in Tokyo. Someone starts knocking on Tengo's door. Bam, bam, bam. A voice demands the NHK fade, but Tengo does not even own a TV. The knocking happens in the middle of the night. It is aggressive. It is impossible. This is the magic realism of 1Q84. The knocking is the ghost of the father, but it's also Tengo's own buried trauma fighting back. It shows us a deep psychological truth. When you finally stop running and turn to face your pain, the pain fights back. The memory demands to be paid. The fee collector inside your head wants his money. Tengo realizes that his father was also a victim. The father was a man who lost his beautiful young wife to another man. A man who had to raise a child that might not even be his own biological son. The father had no tools to deal with his own heartbreak. He only had the NHA manual. He only had the rules. The rigid routine of knocking on doors was the only way the old man kept himself from falling apart. By sitting with the coma patient, Tengo finally understands this. He does not magically love his father. There's no warm, tearful hug. This is not a cheap Hollywood movie. But there is a cold, deep acceptance. Tengo accepts that this broken, empty man is part of this story. He accepts that the memory of his mother and the older man is real, and it hurts, but it cannot kill him anymore. There is a powerful moment when Tengo falls asleep next to his father's bed and sees an air chrysalis, a magical glowing cocoon from the novel he's ghostwriting. Inside it, he sees a young version of his true love, Aomame. In the room of death and emptiness, Tengo's mind finally creates hope. By facing the empty shell of his father, Tengo clears the space in his own heart. He stopped being the victim of his past. He takes control of the pen. He decides to rewrite the world. He decides to find Aomame. He decides to live. We all have an NHA collector in our minds. Maybe it's a parent who never understood you. Maybe it's a teacher who told you that you are not smart enough. Maybe it's an old version of yourself that made terrible mistakes. We spent years trying to run away from them. We move to new cities. We change our jobs. We tell ourselves we are different now. But in the quiet moments, in the middle of the night, we still hear the knocking on the door. Bam, bam, bam. The past asking for its payment. Tengo teaches us that you cannot lock the door and hide forever. Eventually, you have to open it. You have to take the train to the seaside. You have to sit in the quiet room and look directly at the thing that hurt you. You might find that the monster is not as big as you thought. You might find that it's just an empty shell. Forgiveness is not always about saying, I love you. Sometimes true reconciliation is just sitting in silence. It's looking at the broken pieces of your history and say, "This happened, you broke me, but I'm the one who gets to put the pieces back together." The father dies, the knocking stops, and Tengo steps out into a new world, a world he will write himself. Think about your own door tonight. If you hear the knocking, do not hide. Open it, pay the fee, and then, finally, let them go.